Good morning. Updates video. Thank you to everyone who's been asking all of these questions about what's going on with the car, what's going on with the MRI, what's going on with everything in life. So I thought, do you know what? I'll condense it all into. Can I see you properly? There we go. I'll condense it all into a Friday morning updates. So the car, nothing. Nada, zilch. I haven't heard from the Ombudsman. I haven't heard from Land Rover. I haven't heard from Marshall's Land Rover. Now, this comes as no surprise because in January 2024, when this all started, I didn't ever hear from anyone unless I rang them. The only people that consistently rang me twice a week were client care at Jaguar Land Rover, but effectively it was to say we can't do anything. So they sort of rang me so that I could get off my chest my frustration with the entire ridiculous situation. So answering a few more questions on that, and whose responsibility this is, because lots of people say, well, it's Motorpoint you should be going for, or it's this, it's that, it's the other. So I can't do anything about any of this whilst the Ombudsman have the case and it's with the adjudicator. So regardless of who I should be pursuing, it can't go anywhere until the Ombudsman have done something with it. And who knows where they're at. I was told possibly middle of July. I've sent them 4 emails, haven't heard anything back from them. So I just don't know. I had a conversation with them about 3 weeks ago where I cried down the phone. I think I told you that. Don't know. So I don't know what's happening with the Ombudsman. Land Rover, obviously, nothing. The conversation I had with them about 3-4 weeks ago was, can you tell me why I've got this email? No, I can't tell you, but we probably think it's this, but I'll get the person that sent it to ring you. Never has. Marshall's, the last conversation I had with them was, they asked what they could do to be productive. Well, the new manager said, what could he do to be productive? I said, well, obviously you're not going to be able to resolve this issue. I completely understand that. But if you really want to help, you could give me a towing car, because that's what I need at the minute because of the unreliability of the one that's on the drive. Never heard anything from that. Which, to be fair, he's probably got both arms behind his back from the franchise director of Marshall saying, don't give her anything. But it would have been nice to have a phone call to say I can't do that. But anyway, there you go. The car that's on the drive is working. So the car on the drive had the wet belt replaced. Absolutely fine. We've now lost the pressure sensor in one of the back tyres, but that's an easy job. We can fix that. The lights keep coming on. We've done every single check known to man. So the last thing it's going in for on July the 8th is an entire morning of forensic fine-tooth comb, see if it's anything related to the turbos. That's the only thing it can be, because everything else has been ticked off the list. And once we can find out what that is and get rid of the restricted performance, which it keeps going into all the time. And can we talk about that? Limp mode, restricted performance. I've been obviously driving with restricted performance coming on and off for since January. Does anyone else think it's really bloody dangerous? So what if, for example, so living in a fairly rural area, you often have to overtake a tractor or overtake a combine or overtake a big piece of machinery and it's country lanes. What if you go into restricted performance as you're just overtaking? Do you not think that's dangerous? I think that's really dangerous. It happens to me all the time going up a hill with horses in a box. And it's dangerous. There's no power. So for us, for our restricted performance, what you have to do is turn the engine off and then turn it on again. And it goes, oh, there was nothing wrong anyway. So which is why we know we haven't got a really bad problem with it. So we do that if safe to do so. My concern obviously being that if I turn it off, it will be the 9 times out of 10 where it doesn't restart again and I'm stranded with the horses. But I just think it's really dangerous, and I'm sort of mulling over this as I do in the car quite a lot, going, what compelled them to put limp mode on a car? Now, obviously, not being a mechanic or an engineer, I'm sure there's a good reason. Somebody will tell me. I have no doubt that will come in the comments in a minute. But I don't know what it is. I don't know why you would put it in limp mode. The logic suggests you would put it in limp mode to get you home, to do no more damage. So I'm assuming that it's just shutting off bits of the car so no more damage can happen, and it's running on the most slimmed down way of just running, the most efficient way of running without doing anything where your engine's going to blow up, I assume. But how can it know? you know, yeah. I feel like it's a bit dangerous, and I don't know any other cars that do it. I mean, to be fair, I've never driven another car that's gone into restricted performance, so it could be that every single car does it. It's never happened to me. It's only ever happened in the Land Rover. So that would be really interesting to know. Now, I'll come back to the Land Rover in a minute because I just want to go on to the MRI. I'm still waiting for the doctor. So thank you again for everybody that's asked about that. So AXA did send through, as the nice lady promised. I had a choice of 3 surgeons who may or may not be able to see my son. One of them can, and we're booked in for an appointment with them hopefully next week, but we're still waiting to get the MRI. The appointment is no use without the MRI. And I'm waiting for my doctor's surgery to rewrite the letter with the specific wording in it. Now, I sent that to them on Wednesday. I did chase them up yesterday. I know they've got a lot on. I absolutely understand that. But if we don't get that appointment booked today, I mean, we may have already lost the slot, but if we don't get it booked today, that's it, we're done, and we're 6 weeks on. So it's very, very frustrating when a significant part of your medical life hinges on somebody signing a letter. So that's where we're at with that, and I'm trying really hard to contain it, but struggling. The next bit of consumer rights irritation is said son went to visit a university the other day and stopped via a shopping outlet on the way home and bought what he thought was a long sleeve shirt and a couple of other bits. They go out the back and get you the shirt. They've given him a short sleeve shirt. So he phoned up yesterday and said, "You've given me a short sleeve shirt." And they said, "Oh, well, that's bad luck." It's a reputable company, and they've said, "Oh, well, you have to have it now unless you come back to said retail outlet." It was Bicester Village. "Unless you come back with all of your clothes, and then we'll refund all of them." And he's like, "But I don't want them all refunded. I just want the long sleeve shirt, which is what I was buying. But you went out the back and gave me a short sleeve shirt." And I think that's because he's 17. So I've told him to leave the receipt out and the number, and I will be ringing them later, because that's just ridiculous. So that again is another at the end of the phone. Computer says no. Well, I think the computer might need to say yes on this one. Do not do that with my son, said the mother wolf. So that's all of that. Back to the Land Rover. Lots and lots of comments on here about how wealthy I am and how I'm wealthy. I live in a very nice old house. I have 2 Land Rovers, so I'm, practically up there on the Forbes rich list. I have French tip nails, and I have horses. So therefore, I am rich. Now, that's okay. You can think that. I don't mind that. It actually, and as I said to somebody the other day, it's so much better than the reality. So I'm actually going to think that too. But I would just like to say, draw an assumption, that's fine. You can think whatever you want to think. But if I was to break down all of that and give you the background to it, which I'm not going to do because I shouldn't have to do it, and more importantly, it just really doesn't matter. But if I was to break it down, you would see a very, very different picture. Now, I don't mind, think what you like, but I will give you a little breakdown in this room. So that over there that's on the wall was a salvage yard. That door behind me has been put together 3 times and painted. Well, everything's decorated by me, so I do all the decorating. The sofa is on its 4th covering, I think. I mean, that is 60 years old. The puff there, Facebook Marketplace for 30 quid. You can see where I'm going with this. These, present, I do love them. And it's not a competition of who's got less money. It's really not a competition who's got less money, because I know that I am in a better position than some people, and I know that I'm in a worse position than some people. So it's all relative, isn't it? But I just would like to say to the people that say, "Stop whinging, you rich Tory," don't make that assumption on both counts. Don't assume that you know who I vote for, and don't assume that I'm rich, because you'd actually be wrong on both. But, keep it banterful. I'm all right with a bit of banter. And as I said, your version of events is way better than mine, so let's go with it. But just have a little think before you say stuff like this, and ask yourself the question, based on what you can see, how much of reality is that giving you? I've always said, when we're talking about assumptions, something we did in college, obviously because I'm training to be a counsellor, and if somebody says, they're getting divorced, would your first reaction be, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's a nightmare"? Because what if that person is getting divorced and really pleased about it? Now, your assumption, your association with divorce, that it's bad, but their assumption and association with divorce is that it's good. So what you see isn't always what you get. And on that note, I'm going to go and ask my butler if he'll make me a cup of coffee, which he's rubbed the coffee beans before me and serve it on a silver tray with a silver spoon to go in my mouth. Said no, Anna, ever. I'm actually going to go and hoover the dogs. And that's true. Brushing them is pointless. At this time of year, they're shedding all their coats, but they're all quite partial to a bit of the Henry Hoover going the wrong way up on their coats. So I'm going to go and hoover my dogs. Bet you never thought you'd hear that, did you?